The fuck is that?
Look at the cleanse, look at the moves! What was that?
Okay. What is going on, my fellow nerds? Operator Otter here, and today I bring you my favorite Sorc build of all time, the Adonia's Trifusion Stormweaver. For many seasons now, we as Sorcs have been deprived of what it means to be a true spellcaster of all the elements, being hard-shoved into one or another element, but never able to truly embrace the identity of harnessing all of the elements. This season, that has changed, and now we can feel pride in being the elemental spellcaster in Path of Exile. First and foremost, credit for this build goes to KB. He is a fellow Sorc main and genius theory crafter. He can be found in my Discord if you feel the need to drop into our wonderful community and thank him. You can as well ask any further questions that push this build into the elite realm. Link for the Discord can be found in the description below. If you are an experienced Path of Exile player, the POB Ninja link, Google Doc sheet, and Mobile Linux links can be found in the description below as well. If you have any questions, you can refer to the relevant chapter in this video, or ask me questions in my Discord or comments section of this video. I hope you enjoy the build, and I'll see you in the next one. For the rest of you, let's get started. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is the engine of the build, and if that tickles your fancy, then what we'll do is we'll go into the cost of the build with all of the equipment, and if that fits your financial budget, then we can actually move into the mechanics of the build and teach you how to play. But first I want to talk about the gameplay loop and see if that actually gets your interest. So this is how it works. Essentially we cast these cold infused sparks, which in combination with Pinnacle of Power from Adonia's Ego Siphoning Wand, the buff causes all elemental damage to contribute to ignite, shock, and freeze. This means that the spark can now ignite a target, shock a target, and freeze a target, which plays into cast on elemental ailment, which used to not be all that great, but now it's super overpowered because of Pinnacle of Power. This then gains energy for our Lightning Infusion spender, which is Arc. Arc, in tandem with Scion's Temper, Commiserate, and Overcharge, is a powerful AoE clear. It applies boosted shock magnitude, and it generates more crit energy in tandem with Spark for our cast on critical spender, which is going to be our Fire Infusion spender of the spell Cascade Comet. This is going to be our single target for the elites and bosses. Now the thing is, because Pinnacle of Power is affecting all three of these damage spells, that means all three are going to be going into Ignite, Shock, and Freeze, which then plays into the Siphon elements, actually generating an unlimited amount of these infusions. These infusions, when picked up, play into Refracted Infusion, which actually gives us another different elemental infusion, which doubles our infusion generation. At the same time, when we pick up these infusion generations, we are able to recover 3% of our maximum mana when we collect a remnant, and a fusion is a remnant. Now on top of this, we're also going to be playing mana remnants. Now when we critically strike a target affected by an elemental element, which all of them are because of Pinnacle of Power, this is actually going to create the mana remnant. This mana remnant also plays into Storm's Recollection because remnants you create reappear once 3 seconds after being collected, and because our remnant collection range is so far, we are actually able to collect these remnants from super far away even though they spawned 3 seconds behind us. This then plays into the Refracted Infusion as well, which doubles the infusion generation again and doubles the mana remnant generation. Both of these, in tandem, create an unlimited source of mana as well as an infinite amount of infusions, which then play into this positive feedback loop into an infinite triple infused spellcast engine, and it goes back into Spark, and that's how it cycles. That is the engine of the build. So if that tickled your fancy, the next question you're asking is, well, how much does it cost to get the build up and running? Great question. Here at the build cost sheet tab on the Google Doc sheet, it will say the necessary components. First, you need to be level 85. Then you're going to need an Adonia's Ego Siphoning Wand. And then you're going to need a specific amount of spirit, depending on whether or not you're running the Efficient Inscriptions Amulet Allocation or the Diala's Desire Lineage Gem in Cast on Critical. And whatever combination you're running, this is how much spirit you're going to need. From here, we're going to have a ranking of powerful unique items. These items are ranked in terms of how much damage they gave the build when simulated in Path of Builder. Now, I'm going to say this once for the elite players. So if you're an elite player or top 1% player, listen up. Malagaro's Gloves is not actually the best option for this build. What you can do instead is you can actually take Eldritch Battery, and then what you can do is you can then run a bunch of enchants and passives in your tree to make it so that the damage taken from mana before life exceeds 100%. You're then going to remove Chaos Inoculation so that this gives you a life pool. Then you're going to run a Jewel combination that's going to give you the life cost from spells as well as leech for the spell's damage, which is going to make it so that your spells cast half as much, which is going to basically eliminate what Eldritch Battery is doing. Then you're going to run a Time Lost Sapphire for notables that are going to increase your crit hit damage. Then you're going to remove all of your energy shield nodes, and you're going to actually put them into crit hit damage nodes. And then lastly, you're going to run Ritual Cadence with Quipolotl's Soul Core, which is going to do this combination where you can get yourself up to 10 to 15,000 mana regeneration. Now, for the elite players, you know exactly what I just said, and that makes sense to you. Go have fun. If you do have more questions about it, go ahead and come into Discord, and you can at KB, who is the theory crafter to this build. He's actually running a variant of the build I just told you, and you can ask him any questions about that to get that up and running for you. For the rest of us, this is the ranking for the actual unique items in terms of the damage that they give us to the build. From here, you can see each of the items that are listed here. And I have shown different variants of them as they get more expensive so that you can kind of guesstimate how much it's going to cost you to get this build up and running. Now, what I've also put over here is kind of a tier system of how expensive it's going to cost based on how powerful you want the build to be. So if you just want the bare minimum function, it's going to cost you 160 Exalted Orbs. If you want medium grade, it's going to cost you about 5 Divines. High grade, 125 Divines. And super grade is going to be plus 500 Divines. And underneath is going to be each of those items with the specific roles that you want on the item. And that should give you a pretty good idea of how much it's going to cost. So if this fits within your financial budget and you want to keep going for it, awesome. Let's actually talk about the mechanics of what's going on. All right, so let's actually talk about some of the mechanics for this build. So the first one we're going to talk about is Adonia's Ego Siphoning Wand, which gives us Pinnacle of Power now. This is a skill that gives us, with the 2% inequality, 17% more elemental damage per power charge consumed. Well, how are we getting power charges? The first way that we're getting power charges is going to be through our passives, which is going to be Power Within, and our Overflowing Power. This is going to give us a maximum of 6 charges, 7 if you decide to use it with Adonia's, but we're not going to use it with Adonia's. We're going to use it in Weapon Set 2, and we're going to explain why in a second. We're going to use Infusion of Power, which is going to give us a power charge when we consume an elemental infusion, but we're going to be using it on Weapon Set 2. Now, why are we using it on Weapon Set 2? Well, the reason being is that Adonia's has this pretty negative part to it that says negative to all resistances per power charge. Now, what you can see here is that my lightning resistance is 65%. Now, I can get 6 power charges, and when I consume my Pinnacle of Power, this should say -1, right? 6 times 11 is 66. So yeah, I should have -1 resistance, right? Well, here I'm going to show you this trick. When we cast our Frost Bomb to give our infusions, what we're going to do is we're going to swap weapons because now this power charge is turned on. I am then going to cast Spark to consume the cold infusions to give myself the power charges. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm at 6. I am then going to swap weapons and then click my Pinnacle of Power. And now you can see I have my Pinnacle of Power. But now check this out. I still have full resistances. That's how you bypass that. That's how you're able to actually still keep your resistances full while still using Adonia's Siphoning Wand by using that little tech where we're going to actually use Weapon Set 2 to gain our charges and to actually consume it. That's essentially how we're going to do that. That way when we're going through the map, we're not super squishy. Now, Adonia's has this kind of weird thing with Pinnacle of Power on your skill bar where it acts up and kind of changes positions when you're changing a map. So as you can see, just like kind of look where Pinnacle of Power is. And as we walk into the map, it's gone. It's not there anymore. Like, where did it go? Like, what happened? Yeah, so this is a bug that's happening, and I'm not going to pretend like I know exactly what's happening, but I'm going to theorize kind of what's happening. It seems like, number one, you need siphoning power or power siphon to be on your bar, and then you need all top of these taken. So what I did was I put spark here and here. I wanted ER to be the way that I did this quickly, so I just changed the skill bindings. And if you don't know how to do that, you can go to your options and you can go to input and you can actually change the skill bindings right here and bound skills. And so I changed this one to have power siphon, and then I changed this one to have my ice storm. And now from here, what happens is that when I get my power charges and I use them, now all I need to do is just on my keyboard press E, which power siphon automatically switches to that wand, and then I can just press R and it gives me the power siphon. Now when I go through for fitness, you can see how it doesn't change position. Yeah, I don't know exactly what's going on, but that's the way that I set it up, and it's been working perfectly for me. So if you want to, follow suit, but that's kind of a fix to that weird bug. Okay, so now that we've learned how to actually use Adonias and get our Pinnacle of Power and use those charges, the build just kind of plays itself. It's really not all that complicated. You cast Tempest, you cast Spark, like things just die, right? And we'll go over some combos in the end, but now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the passive tree. So we're going to go to our gold doc sheet. We have the PoE Ninja link here, and I like the PoE Ninja link because it actually shows the allocation for the From Nothing with Eldritch battery, whereas Mobilytics does not show that. It's kind of bugged. So just take that into account if you're using Mobilytics. But here we're going to talk about it. So let's talk about the most important things first. Number one, freeze buildup. Freeze buildup is by far the most powerful nodes because it is going to be the engine to your cast on ailment. Everything depends on you freezing the targets. It's also going to give you a good defensive layer. We're going to get those from here, here, and here. The second is going to be mana remnants or arcane remnants because you can't deal damage without resource. This is going to be getting your 3% mana when you actually pick up an infusion, so definitely a good thing. From here, critical hit chance. That's the engine to our cast on criticals, plus Malagar is going to be multiplying that. We're going to be getting crit from here, 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 and here. And then one node right there. Boom. All right, from here, we're going to be doing spell effect duration. Now, why do we need spell effect duration if everything is just instantaneously dying? If everything just dies in one spark cast, why do we need spell effect duration? The reason being is because we want spark to actually lead us farther than the blink distance. So what I'm talking about is imagine that you're in the game, right? And you're going forward, you get your infusions, you casted your spark, everything dies, right? And you're like, all right, cool. And now what you decide to do is you want to blink. And when you blink forward, you have no sparks and there's a group of enemies right here and they all hit you and you die. So what we're going to do is that by having that spell effect duration, boom, everything's dead. I'm referring to see how the sparks are in front of me. That's how you want. It's going to kind of give you that little defensive layer. It's a really nice, cool thing. From there, we're going to be increasing our spell damage because we have more damage. From here, we're going to be doing exposure increase. Now, what's with the exposure increase and how are we applying exposure? We are not applying exposure with Frostbomb in this build, even though that is a way you can apply exposure. We're not doing that. We're using Frostbomb to just quickly get ourselves our cold infusions. That's it. That's the only reason we're using it. To apply exposure, we're going to be using the Whispering Ice Permafrost Staff. And this is going to be using Ice Storm. When we cast this Ice Storm, when one of these, just one of these Ice Storms hits the target, it will instantaneously lower the resistance by 60%. But because of the increased exposure effect that we have here, it actually increases it to 100%. So when you're against a boss, it just instantaneously drops their resistances by negative 50%. It's a super powerful staff. I would highly suggest going and getting that staff, but that is the reason why we have that. Then we have our Unleash seals. Now, what's the whole thing with the Unleash? Well, the thing is I love this tech that I kind of found with the Unleash and the seal frequency, which is going to be here, these seal frequencies. So previously what happened was you got your cold infusions, and then in order to charge her, you would have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you would go ahead and you would turn on your Pinnacle of Power. Well, if you put in the Unleash, and then you also get the seal frequencies that are going to be right here. Now check this out. Watch the powers. 1. Done. I'm infused. Fully infused. Got my 6 power charges. It's that fast. And not only that, every single time you teleport into an area, bam, look at all the sparks. Just instantaneously blink, boom, look at all the sparks. Instantaneously blink, bam, look at all the sparks. Instantaneously blink, bam, all the sparks. It's just so good for the build. I highly, highly suggest utilizing it. After that, we're going to have mana cost efficiency because this is going to help us against single target boss damage, because though when we're in density, we have unlimited mana, and against the boss, we don't, so having mana cost efficiency is going to be good. And lastly, what we're going to do is we're going to have cast speed. Where we get cast speed is going to be here and here. These nodes right there, this is actually going to give us our Arcane Surge when we crit, and we do a lot of crits, so we're going to have Arcane Surge all the time. That's going to give us 15% cast speed, and that is the passive tree. So next we're going to talk about skill and support gems, and I'm going to be honest, I don't have it in me to go over 8 minutes over every single support gem and why we're choosing them. I am going to trust you, my audience, that you know why I'm choosing these things and you trust me that why I'm choosing them. You can absolutely make whatever modifications you want. I am just showing you what has worked out best for me. So let's go over that real quick. So when it comes to the support gems, I'm going to assume that every single skill that you have has at least a 5 link, or aka you can put in 4 support gems into them. There are going to be 5 abilities that you can put in 5 support gems. They are 6 links. That is going to be your Elemental Storm, your Cast on Ailment, your Frostbomb, your Spark, and your Cast on Critical, which is going to be shown right here. For these skill or support gems that are labeled right after, these are the least important, aka you do not need them, they are not necessary. That is going to be Prolonged Duration in Elemental Storm, Scion's Temper and Cast on Ailment, Spell Echo and Frostbomb, Unleash and Spark, and Diala's Desire and Cast on Critical. These are the ones that only have the 5 support skills, and these are the most least important ones. You do not need to have these. For every other ability, just slam in what I'm saying. I promise you, you are going to have a good time if you just trust me on what support gems to run here, all right? Cool. Now, there is going to be one that's very weird here, which is going to be looking at Purity of Fire. You can see that I have a lot going on here with a spirit, and you're like, that's a lot of spirit. Where are you getting all that spirit? I'm going to show you a really cool bug that's happening right now with a resistance aura scepter. So essentially what's happening is that if you look at my spirit, it says 9 out of 266. If I put in clarity, which requires 20, I shouldn't be able to put this in, but guess what? I can. And I can put in mysticism, and I can put in cold, and I can put in warm. Yep. Don't, it's just a bug. It's cool. We're going to use it. This just gives us cool extra things that we can utilize that cost spirit, and it doesn't do anything to our actual spirit cost because there's a bug going on with resistant scepters. So I'll leave you with that and have you a good one on that one, okay? So the next thing that we're going to talk about when it comes to skills is which skill and persistent buff do we allocate to a specific weapon set in the build. And for that, we're going to go ahead and go to our Google Doc sheet, and we will see the weapon set actives and the skills and the sets that we're actually going to be putting them into. Let's go ahead and talk about each of them and why we're doing it. For Spark, set 1 and set 2. Set 1 because that's what's going to be our damage to the engine, and set 2 because that's how we're going to get power charges. For Frostbomb, the idea here is that we only want it in weapon set 1 because we're going to actually be utilizing it a lot in weapon set 1. There are going to be instances where there's just not enough density, but you're going to cast your Spark, so you'll be moving up like this. You're going to cast your Spark, and then you're going to blink forward, and then you're going to want to cast Spark again, but do you see how these are not cold infused? So what you want to do to kind of be able to bypass this is that you want to get your cold infusions. You'll come over here. Let's imagine that you cast it, and then you're going to cast this in front, and when you land, now you have cold infusions, and you're good to go, and you can do it again. So that's essentially how we're doing that if there's not enough density. For Mana Tempest, this is what's going to auto swap us back into weapon set 1 when we're doing our boss rotation. We'll be talking about that in a second. For Elemental Weakness, what's going on here is that we do have points that are increasing our curse magnitudes for our weapon set 2, as well as the staff actually gives us more to ranks of Elemental Weakness because it is in fact a cold spell. So it gives us more points. So we want to be able to utilize it on weapon set 2 so we can apply a bigger curse. Now, when it comes to the persistent buffs, we have Cast on Elemental Ailment and Siphon Elements only on 1. Why? Well, the reason being is that when we swap weapons, you will see that the total amount of spirit decreases to 140, and that's because the scepter itself is actually giving 126 spirit. So we need to take off things that are casting spirit in our weapon set 2 but still active. Well, the thing is that when you swap to weapon set 2, your Pinnacle of Power is no longer active. So I'm going to go ahead and show that for example right here. All right, so you see how I have Pinnacle of Power. When I swap, I don't have it. When I swap, I have it, and then I don't, and then I do. All right, so when you have your Adonias, that's when you have Pinnacle of Power, and Pinnacle of Power is what's actually driving the Cast on Ailment engine. So when it comes to applying ailments, this isn't going to work in weapon set 2, and neither is Siphon Elements because you're just not applying any ailment damage. But you can still crit, and you can still, because you're critting and things are affected by the ailments, you can still get mana remnants, and you still want to be able to blink out of your position. So for that reason, that's why we're choosing Cast on Elemental Ailment and Siphon Elements to only be in set 1 and everything else to be on set 2, so that the build actually functions rather smoothly. So last thing that we're going to talk about is the boss rotation, which is super simple. It's really easy. All right, imagine boss is like right in front of you. Just cast 1 Frostbomb just to give yourself a couple of infusions because you're going to need to pick them up to get some mana back when you actually do this. You walk up to the boss is doing his thing. You're going to cast your Ice Storm. Ice Storm is going to hit the target. you're going to cast your Elemental Weakness, and then you're just going to cast your Tempest. That's going to swap your weapons, and you cast one Spark. And, like, it's dead. I don't know what else. I don't say, like, literally one cast of Spark will kill 90% of the bosses in this game. When I was against Zesh, I think I cast Spark twice, and it killed him. It is literally just that much burst damage. It's so easy. So, once again, you walk up to boss. Frost Bomb. Ice Storm. It becomes targetable. Curse him. Tempest. Boom. Dead. That's it. Like, everything else plays itself, the boss will just drop like a rock. That's it. It's a super, super easy combo. Other than that, like, the build, that's it for the build guide. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, that's all there is. It is a very mechanically heavy build in terms of everything that's going on, but in terms of playstyle, it's actually really simple, very satisfying, very, very fun. So I hope that you enjoyed the build guide. If you did, please like the video. If you have any questions, please comment. If you want to show some true love, go ahead and subscribe. Go and join the Discord. We'd love to have you in the community. I do stream, drop on by, just ask any questions you want. If you're there, see the gameplay, do anything, hang out, you know, cool stuff and things. Yeah. So hope you enjoy. Have yourselves a wonderful day. I have nothing else for you. Operator Otter, out.